Welcome into the studio. Good friend of ours, attorney Kim Baer, is here, and we saw the topic of discussion here today, Kim, and it kind of is confusing because it says non-compete clauses in Iowa, but Iowa is a right-to-work state, so we don't have to really worry about this, do we?
Oh, no.
Oh, no, because it's getting more and more
Yeah.
competitive in the business world now, and more and more businesses are starting to protect their assets.
It is.
And their assets meaning their people.
Exactly. We call it human capital. And so in Iowa, non-competes are enforceable if they're drafted properly. And so one of the things that you need to know is we get calls all the time from people saying, hey, I'm in a job, I signed a non-compete, I want to switch jobs, can you take a look at it for me? And a lot of times, I would say maybe about 50% of the time, there's a problem with the way it was drafted. So you might have an opportunity to negotiate your way out of it, or to say, you know, it's not enforceable in Iowa, and I'm gonna walk from it.
And of course, a non-compete is the agreement that if you quit a job, you will not go somewhere else.
Exactly. So it's a contract. So if you own a shoe store and I work for you and I start working for you, but I don't ever sign a contract with you saying when I leave I won't compete with you, then we don't have a non-compete. But if at the beginning of the job you say, Kim, you're going to be my manager, I'm going to show you my pricing, I'm going to give you my customer list, I'm going to teach you all sorts of things about the shoe industry, and I want to make sure you're not going to come here and work for me for a year and then go work for Jackie down the street who also sells shoes. And so in that case, you would say, here's your non-compete, I need you to sign it. And so it's a contract. It's a contract between an employer and an employee.
And what period of time is pretty common for those type of things? Because when you quit, if you learn a trade, you're not going to say, I'll never do that again.
Exactly. So we see anything from 6 months, a year, all the way really up. I think the longest one I've seen upheld by the court is probably 7 years.
Wow.
I mean, it really depends. Now, when we get to 5, 6, 7 years, those typically come up in situations where you own a shoe company and I'm going to come and buy your shoe company. And I want to say, okay, Lou, I'm going to buy your shoe company. I'm going to buy all your shoes and your customer list, but I want to make sure that you're not going to go down the street and open up a competitor. And so that's typically where we see the longer non-competes, which makes sense.
So what are the loopholes or the mistakes that are made, or don't we want to
Good question.
give them that advice this morning?
Well, so the law is pretty clear here. So number one, it needs to be, in writing, obviously. It needs to be signed by all parties. Then number two, we look at the geography. In other words, let's go back to, I work for you and we sell shoes, and you have shoe stores only in Iowa. If you have me sign a non-compete saying I can't sell shoes anywhere in the United States, that's probably too broad. So you need to know, in Iowa, courts don't necessarily favor non-competes, but they will enforce them. And so one of the things the court's trying to look at is it narrowly tailored to protect your interest? So if you say, I can't sell shoes anywhere in the United States, that's too broad. And so the court very well may say, we're either going to throw it out, or a lot of times in these non-competes, it has a provision saying, Judge, if you're going to throw it out, before you do that, just narrow it. So that's one of the things we look at. We look at the time limit that we talked about before. We also look at what does it seek to stop me from doing? So again, another example, the shoes. And let's say so I'm a salesperson, and let's say you have me sign a non-compete that says if I leave you, I can't go be a salesperson for anyone. All right. If I go sell cars, how am I hurting you?
Right.
I'm not, so it needs to be narrowly tailored to protect your interests. So it needs to say shoes, and maybe shoe products or
footwear
socks.
industry.
Exactly, that type of stuff.
Okay.
And then we also look, one of the things that we're starting to see with regard to sales now is how broadly is it worded. I just got through negotiating one of these about 6 months ago where there was an issue about if I am in sales, but now I'm going to go do an internet business. Does sales include internet? Does it not include internet?
Oh.
So we get into a lot of definitions.
Wow.
How broad is it? How narrow is it?
Right.
The other thing that we often see, and this is, I would say, this would be the number one type of problem that allows us to usually get it thrown out. And that is what we call consideration. So if I start working for you, and at that time, we have 2 or 3 times during our relationship, during our employment relationship, where you can ask me to sign a non-compete. One is right when you offer me the job. If you say, Kim, I want you to work for me, but only if you sign this non-compete. Then there's consideration because you're giving me a job, and in return, I'm going to sign the non-compete. Then let's say you didn't do it then, and let's say I'm working for you, and now you're going to promote me to a manager, and you say, Kim, now I'm going to show you my client list and everything, and so you need to sign this. If I sign it, you need to give me some money. You need to not, it needs to be tied to something that's a benefit or a raise or something like that. Right.
Oh, I didn't. Well, if you are going to get a managerial job, chances are you are going to get a raise.
Yeah,
anyway.
hopefully you're going to get a raise.
So that would be consideration.
Yeah, well, and when I'm representing employers, I tell them I don't really feel comfortable with just a raise, so you need to give some additional money. Because if you think about it, if I've been working for you and you want me to sign a non-compete now, I'm giving up something. I'm giving up my right to go work for Jackie down the street.
Right.
So, and then another situation might be if something's changing in the company. Maybe your company's being bought, but you're still going to work there, and you don't want me to leave, and so you want to say, we want you to stay, and so we want you to sign this non-compete, and we're going to give you some money. So that's typically the number one thing. When I'm looking at it, that's usually the first thing I look for. I say, okay, did you sign it when you started the job? Did you sign it, if you didn't sign it when you started the job, did you sign it later? And if so, what did they give you in return for signing it?
Okay, but once you sign it, you can't go back and ask for something afterwards, can you? Like, say you signed the non-compete halfway through your employment, and you say, okay, I signed this, but I didn't get anything. Now I want something. Is that too late?
Not necessarily. You certainly could go back and talk to them and say, look, I don't think this is, I don't think this is worth the paper it's written on. And but I guess you have to stop and think, what's your end game there? If your end game is you think down the road you're going to leave, you probably don't want to flag this right now. But if your end game is, hey, I really like this company, but I don't think they really did this right, maybe you bring it up to them. So,
in your best interest. In your best interest.
Okay. In your best interest. And then finally, one point I want to make for employers: if you didn't have your employees sign a non-compete, and somebody steals your customer list or your pricing, something that you keep secret. Iowa does have a trade secrets law, and that protects those things. And so a lot of times employers will think they can't do anything because they have this employee that stole the secret recipe or that stole the customer list. In fact, you can. There's a trade secrets law that protects all of that, and it also has a provision for attorney's fees. And so a lot of people don't know about that.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a case years ago involving a pizza place in town. Remember that?
Exactly.
And that was one that was brought up. So.
Yes. That's one of the tavern pizza case that we call that. That was the pizza sauce recipe that was stolen. So,
wow.
Yes.
Okay, well, we know in our business non-competes come up quite a bit, but other people maybe are seeing it for the first time, don't know what it is. Do you recommend employees and employers making sure everything is as it should be before they sign anything or release it?
Absolutely. And Jackie, I think that's a great point. If you're starting a new job, call up your attorney and say, hey, how much can I pay you for an hour of your time, or even 30 minutes, frankly, to review this contract before I sign it. I just want to know what it is, and I want to know what the results are going to be. Number one, if I quit. Number two, if I'm terminated. Because a lot of people think, well, if they fire me, they can't enforce that.
Right.
No, not true. It usually applies whether or not you quit or you're fired. So you just want to be smart about it. And if you're an employer and you're having people sign it and it wasn't drafted by an attorney, then you certainly probably want to make sure you have an attorney draft it or review it, and that's usually not very expensive.
Just look it over. All right.
Just look it over.
Now, people have questions about this because obviously a very complicated subject.
Yes.
What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, just give us a call at 515-279-2000 or 515-INJURED.
All right, easy
Perfect.
to remember. Wonderful. Good to see you, Kim.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
good to see you guys too.
See you later. It is 7:51 right now, and we will be right back, folks. And when we come back, who's playing at 8035? We'll kind of give you some of the bands that will be there when we come back.